Hello and welcome to Habit Nerd, a podcast show that knows that few things can have a more powerful impact on your life than improving your daily systems, habits, and mindset. I'm your host, Dr. Bree Hurn, a multi-passionate researcher, lecturer, speaker, and coach. Once a perfectionist who was always busy but not necessarily effective, I overcame illness and burnout and am now obsessed with sharing the science and systems for working with efficiency and habits for abundant health in your mind and your body. Each week, my guests and I share stories and lessons backed by research. So let's buckle up and dive straight into today's empowering conversation. Welcome to this episode of the Habit Nerd podcast. I'm delighted to have your company again. Here at the Habit Nerd, we know that habits are simply a way to cast votes for the type of person we want to be. Now, as the guru James Clear, who you might know as the author of Atomic Habits, says, it's actually our systems that determine the success of our behavior or of our habits. So, for example, if a habit that you have, an automatic habit, is that in the morning you brush your teeth, you would have a system in place where your toothbrush is nearby to your bathroom sink and that it's easy to get to, and that you have the toothpaste nearby to your toothpaste, for example. So that's an example of a system that makes the habit of brushing your teeth really, really easy. So with that said, in a busy end of year period at work, and let's be honest, when is it not a busy period at work? It seems more important than ever to embody the identity of someone who is focused, who is productive, who's thorough, who is efficient and proud of the quality of work that they are producing. Therefore, the system that we are discussing today to ensure that we can achieve these work habits to be the person that I just described is a reflection on the environment or the space in which we do our work. Here at the Habit Nerd, it is a high value that we are evidence informed. So today's tips on how our workspace or our context influences our work habits integrates research from environmental psychology, from organizational psychology, and from behavioral science. Now, Habit Nerds, as we wrap up the end of the year and emerge into a fresh new year of work, maybe now is a good time for you to look around and think about the impact that your work environment has on your work productivity and whether or not you can change up some of the environment and some of the systems that are either helping or hindering you doing your best work and embodying the identity of the sort of person that you want to be as a professional. Research tells us that there are four main elements that we need to consider when it comes to the place where you do your work. The first one are the functional elements. So this is the physical attributes of your workspace. Things like your chair, and are you comfortable? Your desk, is it the right height? Does it have everything you need on the desk? Is it clean enough for you to be not distracted? Do you have the computer that is serving your work? Do you have a clock if you need one? Are all your resources at your fingertips, for example? They're all the physical attributes of your workspace. The next thing to consider is the sensory attributes. Things like lighting. Are you in a light that inspires you? Do you have enough light to get your work done? Are the lamps in the right place, for example? What about the sounds? Is there a silence to your workspace, and does that serve you? Do you prefer to work with a little bit of background noise? Are you motivated when there's quiet music playing, for example? Is there a smell that you either dislike or that you really like and you find motivating in your workspace? And what are the colors and the textures in your work environment that you find are either helping or hindering your productivity and your efficiency? The third thing to think about with environments is social, and this is about whether there are opportunities to connect with other people or not to connect with other people, as the case may be. And the final thing to consider in terms of our work environment and whether it is helping or hindering our flow state is temporal. Now, temporal markers are about past accomplishments at work and whether there's evidence of where you've come from and whether you can be inspired in your place of work to do great work in the future. And does your place of work, your environment, your space reflect a future you in terms of work that you were really inspired to undertake? I'm going to now ask you some questions that will help you evaluate the personal meaning that you attach to the place or the context or the elements of your work environment. This requires a fair bit of introspection because you need to think about what parts of your own identity does your work environment motivate and which parts of your identity does your work environment stifle. So does your workspace excite you about who you might become in your work, or does it lock you into a past version of yourself that maybe you're trying not to be anymore? For example, if you're a nature lover, but your work environment is grey and concrete and man-made, there is an incongruence there. You're not likely to feel like yourself because the environment that you're working in is in direct contrast to that. The fun part is to imagine then your ideal workspace. Maybe you can work in different places to reflect the different parts of yourself. I know with myself, I really like clean, quiet, uninterrupted spaces when I'm doing deep work. So I like my desk to be tidy. I don't like any noise. I like to have noise-cancelling headphones on. But when I'm collaborating, I want bright and well-lit areas. I want to make sure that there's plenty of room at the table for people, that there are things like fruit and a cool water jug available for us to do our best work together. And then looking forward, think about how do you want to grow in your work? What parts of your ideal work identity might need attention, and how can the spaces that you work in help you achieve that? Habit nerds, now that you've done that really important introspection about your own work environment, it's time to make the tweaks that would help inspire you into a really excellent new year of work. If you do want quiet when you're working from home, for example, could you invest in some noise-cancelling headphones? Could there be some systems like putting up a sign to remind your family members or your workmates or your housemates, if you are at home, that you need to do quiet work, that you need to be undistracted, for example? If you are not happy with the lack of natural light, for example, is that something that you can do something about? Can you reposition your desk so that you're closer to a window? Neuroscience would tell us that being able to see elements of nature are inspiring and really do help our sense of productivity at work. So if you can't see some trees or the sky from where you are, could you bring in a pot plant as a suggestion? It's a great idea to do a declutter or a clean of your space as we emerge into a new work year. And this is because we need to get rid of the things that are no longer serving us. I'm not just talking about mess and clutter here. I'm also talking about things that reflect a past version of your work self that you simply don't identify with anymore. It could be a past project that's now done and time to put a line under, or it could be something that really is holding you back in a metaphorical sense. It's lovely if you can think about the sensory elements like the colors that you could have around and the smells. Could you buy a beautiful smelling candle and light that so that you're inspired by the scent as you do your work? Or an oil diffuser is another maybe safer version that you could plug into the office wall. Great idea to put up pictures that inspire you and inspire you to be the type of individual at work that really embodies the professional that you would like to be. Could you put up pictures of your loved ones as a reminder of why you're doing your work, why you're working so hard? Could you put up something that makes you smile, pictures of friends, a great memory, a trip, maybe your pet? It's lovely if you're inspired to put up pictures of yourself with your colleagues, because there may have been a conference that you attended together. You may have had a dinner that was great fun. You may have undertaken a presentation or won an award even. And they are the things, the temporal elements that reflect our work self to motivate us to be more of that person and also to inspire us to do great work in the future. It's smart to be able to put boundaries around the type of work you do in certain places if you have the agency to be able to do that. I know myself, when I am writing, I'm writing articles or reports or I'm doing research, I'm very disciplined about doing that in the mid-morning with my door closed, with nobody else in the house and with a really clean, quiet environment. I am, though, inspired and feel less constrained when I want to do something less cognitively demanding, like clear my email inbox. Very happy to do that in the afternoon out at the kitchen table with a cup of tea, for example, Being able to choose where I do different types of work motivates me to have some choice, and that way I don't feel so constrained by my work environment. So habit nerds, I hope that this has inspired you to see your space as either helping or hindering your work habits. I would love to hear about what you realize when you do that reflection and introspection, and whether you are going to try any changes to your workspace to impact your most productive work self. Let me know over on Instagram at The Habit Nerd. Look forward to connecting with you next time. Thank you for tuning into this episode of The Habit Nerd. I hope you found some new inspiration, learned something new, or gained a fresh perspective. If you did enjoy the episode, I would be really grateful if you could please leave a 5-star review, as it helps the show get in the ears of new listeners, plus it should only take you 5 seconds. If you're keen for more tips and insights, then head over to Instagram and follow Habit Nerd.